Hello everyone, this is Rick and welcome to Astral Club. This week we're going to discuss forbidden astral knowledge. There'll be 3 topics that I'm going to talk about that people, humans, have discussed for thousands of years, and I'll give you my take on them. The first is going to be, if you recall from the video that I made a while back discussing what happens after we physically die. I talked about there was 2 different ways that you could go, and there was a third way which I didn't want to discuss at the time. Well, I'm going to discuss that. Next, why do we forget our past lives? Why does that happen? And lastly, which religion is right according to my astral projections? So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, when I discussed in my Life After Life video, discussing what happens after a soul dies, I mentioned that there was 3 ways really that you could go. If you were ready for promotion to the mental plane, you would go there. And that's a very high attainment that's usually only reached after many, many, many lives. And let me just add an addendum that I don't think I discussed at that time. We have guides who belong on the mental plane, but they decide as a sacrifice to, instead of growing and existing in this perfect paradise that is the mental plane, they decide that they're going to work with the poor in Calcutta, India, by assisting souls of all levels through their physical and their astral lives. So these are really people who belong on the mental plane, but they sacrifice that so they can assist others. So that's really the one way to do it. The second way to do it that I mentioned is, of course, after you've reviewed your life, you return and you incarnate once again. Now, the third path I didn't mention, and I've been talking with my angel pal, and he advised, I made an argument that, look, I understand that this third path is controversial and it can be harmful, but I think the people that we're dealing with here that listen to Astral Club are the kind of people who need to be forewarned, so they're forearmed. They're not the type of people to use this type of abusive method, but they need to be aware so that they can avoid it for themselves, as well as hopefully help other souls to avoid this particular minefield. The third path is astral parasitism. It is possible to not go to the mental plane nor reincarnate in a physical body. You can, if your soul is sufficiently advanced, that's the trick, to resort to being a parasite, stealing energy from souls that are drawn to you by your knowledge and your charisma. And by siphoning off their astral energy, you can remain on the astral plane without having to go back and incarnate. Luckily, these individuals are very rare. Because, as I said, the soul has to be fairly well advanced to do this. But it has to be retarded enough so that it doesn't realize that it's not only harming these souls that it is parasitizing, but it's also harming itself in that it's also retarding its own growth. Because it's not growing, it's just continuing to exist like a bloated tick. Now, we have those people. Luckily, they're still pretty rare on the physical plane. A couple examples that immediately come to mind would be Jim Jones of the People's Temple. You might remember that he started out as a preacher who fought against the perceived racial injustices that he saw in the world at that time. But he had a flaw in his character. He had a flaw in his soul. And as he accrued this power, as people became attracted to them or to him, he became a cult leader. He eventually moved the cult to Guyana. And there, on November 18th, 1978, in a town that he self-labeled Jonestown, 909 people died through cyanide suicide. The term "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from that particular incident, although oddly enough, for the Kool-Aid Corporation, it was actually Flavor Aid, which was the generic version, but whatever. The bottom line there is this is someone who fed off the energies of his members in this cult. And the other example that comes to mind is David Koresh. You may recall he was a Christian leader, and he had a cult in Waco, Texas, and a variety of nonsense went on there. He had sex with kids and the wives of other members there, and it was supposed to be okay because he was the sinful Messiah. He was kind of like Jesus, only this time he was allowed to be sinful. I don't know. It's all these things can be kind of crazy. At any rate, on April 19th, 1993, while surrounded and being raided by the ATF and the FBI, the building caught on fire and 76 people died. And this is another example of a cult leader who parasitized his followers. Now, anyone who has ever done public speaking on a subject that they truly enjoyed, I'm not talking about where somebody put a gun to your head and made you give a speech. I'm talking about a topic that you really enjoyed in front of a crowd that really was into what you were saying. And this sends me back to when I used to give seminars, and I'd have 30 or 40 people in a hotel over a weekend. And I'd be talking from basically 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon on both days, Saturday and Sunday. And you would think that at the end of all that, I would be exhausted. But I wouldn't be, because of the free interchange of energy between me and the people who were very much interested in my seminar. I was actually willingly given this energy, and I felt extremely elated at the end of everything. So that gives me just the teeniest little idea of what that must feel like for these negative cult leaders. So what we have to be aware of here, and what I want my people listening to this this video right now, is to realize that not only do you have to be cautious about belonging to a cult here in the physical world, but also to be cautious in the next. Be very careful about someone who says that they have all of the answers and that you must listen to them because they have the only truth. And these people, they can be very, very seductive, but it's minefields. And I wanted to talk about it because I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of what that third path was. It's not really a path. I mean, it's a very destructive one, not only for the victims, but also for the person himself who's doing it. And they're really just injuring their own soul and their own soul's growth. But be aware of that. Okay, the second thing is, why do we forget our past lives when we incarnate? Now, that is by large degree the way it happens. Now, there's been a few stories about children throughout human history who seem to have retained in some way their past life experiences. But for the most part, none of us consciously has access to that information. So why is it that we don't have that information? Well, I'll mention what I think right after I talk about one opinion. there is an opinion out there, and I just want to make sure that I share it so that you're aware that it is out there. There are folks who believe in a conspiracy theory that we are being, when we go through the white light, when we die, that is a process whereby our mind is wiped, and that we are then sent back to Earth to work as slaves, and that keeping us ignorant helps to foster that whole slavery thing. I have thought about that theory, and it's out there. I ultimately disagree with it, but I just want to make sure I mention it so you know it's out there and you have to make up your own mind. Now, my thoughts on this, based on my own experiences on the astral, is that each time we incarnate, we try to do a little bit better than we did previously. We try to remold ourselves, to come up with new ideas, new ways of thinking, new ways of bonding with those that we love and our fellow humans. Imagine what it would be like, though, if you had to drag along with you 30, 40, 50, 1,000 different memories of lifetimes that you lived, loves, enemies, moments of joy and ecstasy, moments of absolute pain and misery. How would that be to drag that along with you? And would those memories truly help you to foster an improved self? Or would they be like an anchor around your neck, dragging you down, lost in all of these subsequent victories and failures, rather than looking forward to new experiences, meeting new people, forging new relationships, coming up with new and innovative ways to progress? And that's the reason that I believe personally that we leave those other lives and those memories away from our conscious mind. I think we benefit from this soul development on an unconscious or a subconscious level, just not a conscious one. That's my take on this. You can certainly are welcome to make up your own mind on this. Lastly, I get on a regular basis questions. And this was all sparked by a question that I had this week from yet another person who, based on their comment and their question, is a Christian. And that's my background. As a child, I was raised as a Christian. And he stated of the various beliefs that he had and wanted to know if my astral projections backed up, God, Jesus, and everything in the Bible, or did it back up Islam, or Judaism, or Buddhism, or Hinduism, or whatever other isms you want to mention. Currently, according to Wikipedia in 2020, there are about 4,200 active religions in the world. So we humans have certainly no shortage of theories about the other world. This is a very tricky question. And I don't truly believe that anyone should take what I say, most especially on this subject, as gospel, if I can use that phrase. This is a question that each of us has to form an answer for on their own. Be extremely wary of anyone out there, whether they be a family member, whether they be some pastor or some mullah or some priest who says that they have the 100% correct and true answer to this particular question. Because those people are either deceived or are actively deceiving you and others. I will share my basic opinion on this general topic, but keep in mind it's just my opinion based on some of my experiences. I am in no way saying that this is the one answer in any way, shape, or form. I see each soul as a brain cell, a single brain cell of an overall creator or creative force. Each of us, like a brain cell, for instance, feels separate. We feel like we're on our own and we're trying to, live and struggle and get better, but we feel isolated. However, just like a single brain cell in a human brain, it's actually interconnected with billions of other brain cells that actively form a single brain. And so the missions of these brain cells, and perhaps of the creator itself, was to split off all of these many component parts and split them off and allow them to go out and to experience and to grow and eventually come back, reassemble, and create a much better being, a wiser being, not losing their individuality and that special thing, that special spark that each soul has, but actively realizing and actively dwelling in a state of being that you're also simultaneously aware of your connection to the greater whole. And if this theory is anything other than my delusion, what that means is if you hurt others, well, you're connected to them, so you've just hurt yourself. If you war against others, you're warring against yourself. If you plot against your enemy, you're plotting against yourself. So perhaps the best way to finally return to this perfect state, vastly improved, is to help each other. Because as we help one another, we help ourselves. I have a lot of folks on a regular basis who are very kind and very nice, who comment on my videos and say, oh, I really like this one. This is great. Keep up the good work. This is really helping me. And all of that is great. And I really appreciate the accolades. But I'm not doing it for the accolades. The reason I'm doing this, as I stated right off the bat, is that I want to help my fellow humans. And there's many ways to do that. And there are many people out there who are doing that very thing in infinitely superior ways than I can possibly do it. But I picked astral projection because it's the one area that I have some small amount of knowledge that I can share that is desired enough so that folks will listen, they'll take what they feel good about and discard the rest. And to help not only experience astral projection and all the wonderful things associated with that, but as they go through their travels through the astral and through life, that they grow and they become greater than they are now, and that they touch the lives of others around them. Whether the other people are interested in astral projection or not is neither here nor there. But we are in a situation now together that as we grow, I help you and you help others. And eventually, in some small, tiny, atomic way will have an effect on humanity as a whole. And hopefully, eventually, speed up that time where we can all once again become united in this greater creator being. Well, so there you go. That's my take on that. And those are the three different forbidden astral knowledge topics that I wanted to discuss. And we'll probably finish up the course next week. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. If you have subscribed, great. If you haven't, why don't you hit the subscribe button and ring that bell, and that way you'll be notified when I post videos. And if you like some of these videos and you want to support the channel, there'll be a Patreon link in the description. Okay, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you on the astral plane.